How did a religion that started with only one man 2 millenniums ago grow and spread to become the most popular religion in the entire world even today? So, the origins of Christianity, that is such a big topic. Like, where do we even begin? If only there was some famous Christian figure who just so happens to be the most significant historical person to ever live. Oh, yeah, Jesus. I'm sure you've heard of him before. You may have even heard a story that goes something like this.
Jesus was born in Bethlehem to the Virgin Mary. He grew up to eventually become a preacher, teacher, and healer who would commit many miracles throughout his youth. He accrued quite a following during this time, most notably his 12 disciples. One of those disciples, Judas, famously betrayed him by turning him into Roman officials, leading to Jesus' crucifixion on the cross. But it's okay though, because he was resurrected 3 days later before finally returning to heaven for good.
However, many aspects of that story were added much later on and are heavily debated. So, which parts of Jesus' origin story are verifiable? Well, we do know that he existed sometime around the beginning of the century. Many historians actually believe he was born in Galilee around 4 BCE. He was undoubtedly a Jewish minister that had a lot of influence on those around him. There's a lot of different recordings of his Gospels, but it's pretty difficult to tell which things he did and didn't say. However, we can presume that something made him stand out from all the other Galilean preachers. I mean, he must have had a crazy impact if we're still talking about him over 2,000 years later. We also know that he was executed by Roman officials because he got in trouble with authorities after starting some mysterious incident at a temple. His death is what really started the spread of the movement he created. So, what happened after he died? Here's where the Apostle Paul comes in. Paul was a Hellenistic Jew that was converted to the belief of Jesus as the Messiah sometime around his 30s. He never met Jesus, but claims to have been anointed by him in some way after hearing or witnessing Christ. After this, he begins traveling all throughout the Eastern Mediterranean, spreading the good news about Jesus and how amazing he was. And Paul spread this message far and wide. On top of that, he would also often speak in urban settings, which helped his message spread even faster. Churches weren't really a thing yet, so he would often have congregations that were more reminiscent of assemblies. Notably, Paul always made a point of including Gentiles, because from his perspective, Jesus' sacrifice and death and resurrection was his way of dying for our sins, allowing anyone to be able to convert. He would eventually go on to write several letters that are featured in the Bible, although a few of those letters weren't actually written by him as far as we know. He would meet the same fate as Jesus and die from crucifixion. In a short period of time, Paul did a lot to spread this new religion everywhere. But the more people began to convert to Christianity, the more debates began sparking up as well. After Jesus' aforementioned death, it did not take long for there to be a plurality of viewpoints on his life. Some viewed him as simply being a prolific preacher and a wise man, while others almost mysticized him by speaking of his divine miracles and godlike existence. These two distinctions led to a lot of debates within the Christian community. In general, there was a huge diversity in many Christians' beliefs. However, the idea of a universal version of Christianity eventually formed. And surprisingly, the idea of a unity within Christianity remained a constant, despite the fact that, as we know, there can be anything but unification within Christianity at times. But this idea of one harmonious religion gradually led to the development of large Christian churches and sectors. For example, think of the rise of the Catholic Church, which was mainstream by the year 200. This is when we start to see churches have a unified direction in their teachings, authorities, and overall coherence. I'd argue that one of the last significant events to really certify and legitimize Christianity as a mainstream religion was the conversion of the Emperor Constantine during the year 312. His father's monolithic beliefs likely influenced Constantine, causing him to be more open to the idea of Christianity. And as the story goes,
In the middle of the war, Constantine found that he needed help. It was then that he saw a vision of Jesus and decided to become a Christian. He subsequently led his men to win the war shortly after.
The following year, Constantine issued an edict of toleration to help end all Christian persecutions that were happening during this time period. According to Eusebius, his conversion caused a massive wave of other conversions, especially amongst elites, a tradition that we still see even to this day. Once the elite started embracing Christianity, the pervasive relationship between politics and religion began to form. And from there, the rise of Christianity was basically unstoppable. The story doesn't end there, but that's a brief account of how Christianity grew and spread to become the most popular religion ever. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video.